Welcome to Parenthood Bites, the podcast where we explore life as a parent in tech. I'm your host, Chow, and I have over 15 years of experience in tech, and I'm also currently working as a career coach. I'm the proud mother of 3 incredible boys. In each episode, we have an inspiring guest who will share their remarkable story. You'll find their wisdom and insights both relatable and enriching, because after all, we're all in this parenting journey together. So grab your favorite drink, get cozy, and let's dive into today's episode. Hi everyone, welcome to episode 62 of Parenthood Bites. I'm super excited today because we have a guest who's been here before. We're here with Abdul, who's an IT manager based in Ireland and has 2 young kids. Last time we spoke, they were 4 and 2, and I think they were having a birthday coming up soon. And that was recorded over a year ago, so I super appreciate you joining us again and also taking a chance on me to join in the second episode. When we last talked, it was so awesome. I was like, it would be great if we had you on again. But I was like, I don't know if the podcast will last, but here we are, able to talk to you again. So welcome, Abdul. So happy to have you here.
The pleasure's all mine, Joe. And once again, congratulations on how well the podcast is doing. I've been a great listener to many of your podcasts, and it's wonderful to speak to you again.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your support as well. Can you give us an update on your kids? How old are they now? What grade are they in? What's going on?
Yeah. So, I was just saying to you that they turned 6 and 4. So it's just how time flies, and I spoke to you last, they were just about to turn 5 and 3, and they were 4 and 2 then, now they're 6 and 4, and they had a combined birthday party last month and they had a great time. And I was just saying, my oldest now, he's now going to big school, as we call it. He's in the second year now there, and my daughter's in the last year of preschool. And how time flies, doesn't it?
Yeah, I can't believe your second one is going to be in elementary next year as well. So your son right now is in first grade?
Yeah, that's right. And he's having a wonderful time. The move was a bit difficult at the beginning. He was a little bit nervous because it's extra hours. In the preschool in Ireland, it'll be 9 to 12. He's now doing 9 to 2:30, 9 to 3. But he's really enjoying it. He's also going to a school whereby he's learning Irish language as his first language. So it was a little bit tough at the beginning, the first week. He was a bit unsure, but now he's having a wonderful time, making new friends. And my daughter's in the last year of her preschool, and she's having a great time as well. So she's actually really excited in a couple of months, to be joining my son. So that's fantastic,
That's awesome. So she sees her older brother coming back, and even though it's a longer day, she's probably like, oh, it looks like a lot of fun.
Yeah, so she alternates between saying, I would love to go to his school, and I would like to stay in my preschool, but she's really excited, and we're just so happy that both of them are so happy in school and have wonderful teachers, and they're really enjoying it. But it's just amazing. We try to, as parents, appreciate each day, but even then we just see our kids with new uniforms or new school, and they're just so excited. It's wonderful to see.
Yeah, and like you said, joining, I think in the beginning is very nervous. It's, for both the parents and the kids, because like you said, going from short hours to longer hours, and it's like you probably have to prepare lunch for them now and things like that. What were some of the differences for you, and what were your approaches to kind of ease into it?
Yeah, for sure, because you know how children are. Oh, can we have some chocolates an hour or cookies, etc.? And schools are very well saying, please give healthy lunches. So we've got our son. He loves his tuna sandwiches in the morning, and his bananas and his fruit and his orange. But at the beginning, it was a bit difficult because the preschool had no kind of requirements, but since he's there and now he's more used to it, he really enjoys. At the beginning, he wouldn't eat all of his lunch, and now he's eating it, etc. And it's a great initiative the schools have to try to promote healthy living. So he's really eating a lot more fruit and vegetables, which is great. He's also as well getting used to, the extra hours. At the beginning, it was a bit difficult for him, but now he's getting used to it, which is fantastic. And it's just wonderful to see him getting so much happier in school and comfortable. He gets homework now, so he does his he's a very enthusiastic child. He comes in and goes, oh, Dad, I got homework. Would you like to do it with me? Which is wonderful. So he gets to write his letters and numbers. And that's absolutely fantastic, to see that. Also, just to let you know as well, in Ireland, we have certain parts of the country which do what's called the Gaelic or Anina, where Irish language is the first language spoken. So he's very proud to me, my first language is in English. To see my son learning Irish and English together at school. At the beginning, you could tell he was really quite nervous. He wasn't very enthusiastic. But then after a week or so, he starts speaking in Irish. He starts asking me, how do you say yellow in Irish, which is bui, or a certain colour. And I suppose we could get this deep in the conversation, but as people who speak English maybe as our first or second language, it's wonderful to see at that young age it being encouraged so much more than it was when I grew up, which I think is a wonderful thing for children to be immersed in languages at such a young age, you know?
Yes, that's amazing. They have so many more immersion schools and things where you can have them have that exposure. And I think at that age too, they pick up so quickly, right? I think at
Yeah.
home with my oldest, we spoke just Mandarin at home. And then when he went to school, we were worried at first, like, is he going to be able to communicate with his teacher, his friends? But just 1 week in, we were like, wow, he's improved a lot. 2 weeks, 3 weeks, it was just
Yeah.
now we're like, okay, let's try to make sure he remembers the Mandarin language because he's picked up so
Yeah.
much English, right? I think you probably noticed that just in the first month, he probably picked up most of it already, right?
Oh yeah, and I think it's huge when your friends speak it because I'm sure you know yourself. Like when you speak it, they're like, "Oh, okay, my dad's speaking it or mom's speaking it." And previously, it was towards a second language. It was quite apathetic, I would say, towards it. You know, he was like, oh, "Okay, whatever." But once he got realized that his friends spoke Irish, his teacher spoke Irish, and then we would initiate it at home. We also speak other languages to him at home, like Arabic and Urdu, and it's great. And the way in which they do it so well at schools these days, they make it so much fun. Cartoons and TVs and film sets, etc., whereby it wasn't nowhere near as interactive. So they've done a great job. And we made a conscious decision for a couple of reasons. One, obviously, it's great to speak the native language, even if it's certain parts of the country that would speak it more than others. But it was just to see how we would accommodate. And he's just been so passionate about it. And it's wonderful to see. And I'm sure same with yourself as well. You must be so proud to see your sons and daughters just conversing in different languages and saying the odd word in this language and that. It's very it's heartwarming to see, you know.
Yeah, yeah. And so does he come home and teach his sister some things, or is she's starting to pick up some?
She actually is interesting because this year we moved her preschool because we moved that far. Let you know, we moved home since the last time that we spoke. So we about half an hour west in Ireland, whereby we had the opportunity to send both of them to an Irish language school first. And I was quite passionate about it, and she now learns it. And at the preschool, it's very elementary. It's mostly like school songs, etc. But myself and my wife were just smiling last week because the kids were conversing to each other in Irish. And can you imagine a 6 and 4 after a month or two?
That's so cute.
So they're speaking to each other and they're asking, you know, how do you say this and how do you say that? And, you know, I'm not a fluent native Irish speaker. I speak a fair bit of it, but the teacher goes, look, I can see that he's so passionate about it, that you're encouraging him. And as well, like Arabic is my first language. My son now is picking up Arabic so much easier because at school, he's learning two languages at the same time. And it's not even really for reasons on school. I just would like the opportunity that I didn't have as well when I was growing up and English was so difficult. I was really struggling when I was 5 or 6. And just to see how much he's enjoying it is such a pleasure to see, you know?
Yeah, making it from, feeling like a chore. Because I think growing up, at least for me, sometimes it felt like a chore. I was like, we went to Chinese school on the weekends and all this homework. And sometimes Friday nights, it was just tears doing the homework.
Oh, I know.
And so it's like, if they can make it where they enjoy it, they will absorb it so much quicker, right? And it sounds like both of them are able to, practice on each other and help each other improve with it. So it's so heartwarming to see.
Yeah, and the teachers do such a great job. And I plus one on what you said of tears on a Friday. I remember my father and going to school, and I just found this, you would do it, but you would feel like you wouldn't look forward to it. Whereas like they've made it so much more fun now and so interactive with pictures and colouring in, etc. And major shout out to the teachers out there who are, spending their time trying to make it as interactive as they can for the students. And the immersion is so much. It's great to see how much has progressed since we grew up, how naturally it's done. And also it means he enjoys school so much, and it's great to see. But both of them now are really enjoying school quite a bit. What is probably most difficult, and I'm sure as a fellow parent you can test, is the wake up times in the morning. It doesn't matter what time in the morning you put them to bed, or they'll always wake up a bit groggy in the morning and a little bit, they want to eat their breakfast, or they want to watch TV instead of getting changed. But it's got a lot easier now, and it's wonderful to see how much they enjoy it now going to school.
Mm-hmm. So do you have them in like a set routine now in the morning to help them get going?
Yeah, we try to wake them up every day around 6, half 6, and we try to get the routine done. So I'll brush their teeth with them. My wife will, get them changed, and they get the choice of wearing which kind of shoes they like at school. So sometimes they want to wear, a specific type, which is great. So they really enjoy that element of it. But I'm sure you can attest sometimes breakfast in the morning can be a bit tough. They just are a little bit, all over the place.
They're half awake, you wake them up, you go do breakfast, you come back, they're still sleeping. But it sounds like your older one has uniform, so at least you don't have to worry about picking out the outfit.
Yeah, and it's a really nice. I mean, he really enjoys the uniform. My daughter is quite interesting at preschool. There's no uniform, and she loves to wear dresses.
Oh.
So she walked in on one of my meetings with my manager, and my manager also has children, and she's wearing a beautiful, splendid, beautiful blue dress. And she jumps in, as she usually does. She jumps in, opens the door, and she goes, "Oh, hello," and she says hello to my manager. And my manager goes, "Wow, that's quite a beautiful dress." And she goes, "I picked it. It's my dress." And he starts to laugh, and he was telling me a story about his 5-year-old. My manager's based in the US, was saying it's the same for him. His daughter was doing it. So she gets to pick her dresses. She really enjoys the element of it, which is great. And my son likes to pick his shoes in the morning. But I think it's an interesting discussion as well, maybe about the pros and cons of uniforms. And I think there's merits to both sides. I will say it makes it easier in the morning. You don't have to pick and have, you wear a set uniform. But no, that's really interesting to see, how it goes, yeah.
Yeah, like you said, it eliminates that back and forth in the morning, but at the same time, like your daughter being so proud of picking that dress, she wouldn't get to if she's wearing uniform to school, right? It's
Yeah.
just kind of on the weekends or after school, or like you said, picking out shoes or maybe doing your hair, but the dress aspect kind of, you don't have that.
Yeah.
So does your first grader, does he still take naps, or do they no longer have naps?
Yeah, and thankfully, both of them don't. What would happen was, I think it was about last year, they stopped taking naps. And what tends to happen now is we put them to bed around like 9 o'clock, 9:30, depending on the time. And we try to get them earlier, It's quite difficult at times. Kids can be very quite hyper, and
Yes, we always aim for a time, but it's always later.
we aim for it, and then they'll get excited, so they're running around and they've got to play with the toy that they got last week. So we try to get them to bed, and once or twice in a while they'll go for a nap, but it tends to like really not work for their schedule anymore to sleep at a certain time, so they don't take naps anymore. What tends to happen is if they're tired, what we tend to do is we just dock in the room and they play with their toys quite quietly, or sometimes they might have a quick nap. But thankfully, they've got the schedule quite good at the moment now, which is trying to be like 9 to 6 or 9 to 7. And then the weekends, we try to let them sleep in. But as I'm sure you know,
Weekends, they don't.
they never do. At the same moment, he'll jump in and you'll hear the clatter down the stairs. And
Yeah.
Dad, I want some, juice or something. And you're like, okay, weekends don't matter to you. Okay, so it's all good. So,
Right.
yeah.
Right. You're like, where were you at this time yesterday?
Exactly.
You were not coming down. But today, when I can rest, this is when you want to come down.
Yeah, school days, no, but on the weekend, no, you're ready to, do what you want to do. So, but I think the routine element is one that I think for all of us parents can be really quite challenging at times, because they want to break the routine, or sometimes if you're on the weekend, you might want to give them an extra half an hour, but it just doesn't work in the long term. You try it, but we do try to give them an extra 15, 20 minutes on the weekend if they want to like do something, but they like their routines at times, and we try to adhere to that even on the weekends as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, my kids on the weekends, they're always up early. It's just without fail, no matter how late they slept the night before. But on weekdays, it's always a challenge to get them up. And I think at an early age, my older one started to stop taking naps. And so that's why I was curious, because they start gradually, because when they were little, that nap time was kind of when we would rest too and kind of get some things done that you can't when they're around. And then for us, it was an adjustment of like, okay, now I have to take care of everything when they're awake. I can't wait for those 30 minutes.
Yeah, I was talking to my wife because it was like, usually in a nap, you'd have time to, clean their rooms or do something, or even have a chat. But now it's like they follow you, and my wife is like, you have a room, but no, you want to follow to the kitchen and you want to follow us when we throw the bins out. Okay, all right, okay. So yeah, I hear you completely on that.
Yeah, it's like you have all those toys, but they don't want to play with it at that time. They want to hang out with you.
Yeah, they want to hang out, and they're really interested about what the ingredients on top of the kitchen table are. And oh, wow, that's something new. And we had to actually, I'm sure you might, both my kids are really passionate, and it's quite difficult because you're making hot food on the kitchen table and they want to sit there and watch it. So we created like a small wooden one you can buy from like any of the local stores, or and they would do it. But even with that, they're still very curious about what's going on and what you're making today, and trying to get the vegetables in their food. But it's a tough challenge for us parents,
because they're watching.
They're watching. Yeah. Oh, Dad, the spaghetti, he's got extra something. What? I don't like something green in my spaghetti. And you're like, oh, you're just too good. We're just too good. So
you wouldn't have noticed it if it was in the sauce, but now
exactly, you see the color and you see we're cutting it. No, it's not good to go now.
So do they want to get involved and help too, or they're just very curious?
Yeah, they love, as kids, they love the food machine. So anything that makes a noise oh, they're having the time of their life. So if there's any like food processor or anything chopping or any kind of like knife skills at all, oh, they're having the time of their lives. It's when it's in the oven that they're like, for the first 10 seconds, like, oh, that's interesting. And then they're like, oh, okay, we can just go now. But anything with like any noises, oh, they're very excited.
They run over right away.
Yeah, they're straight there.
Yeah, that'll make it harder for sure to kind of sneak in vegetables and things like that for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Because when they were little, we would try to put it in their sauce or something, and now it's like, nope. They see it.
They can see there's textures and you know the way that it looks. But that's one challenge that we have, and the one element that really helps is trying to give them snacks for like fruit and vegetables, and that's working quite better because of the schooling system, thankfully. So my daughter like really loves eating bananas and apples during breaks, which is fantastic. My son's not as easy as that, but like because he watches my daughter eat oranges and fruit and grapes, he'll do that now. So I think that's one element that school has helped a lot, because they're like, okay, time to eat your grapes now. And then my son will start eating that on the weekend, which is great.
Oh, that's nice. So actually school encourages kind of more of eating. It's not just, hey, it's snack time. Like over here, it's like, it's snack time. We don't care what snack you're eating, like just right. But it sounds like over there, they're actually intentionally being like, hey, eat this fruit.
Exactly. And they're very clever because on a Friday, you can have like a cheat day. So on Fridays, you're allowed like a chocolate or some Nutella and bread. But every other day, you would follow it. And I think I really like that from a parent's side, because it's not too harsh. But they're like, oh, today is Friday. But the rest of the time, they're like, no, we have to eat our fruit. And you just admire the schooling system, how much thought and effort they put into that kind of consideration. I'm glad to see that they eat it more often. I'm not going to lie, it's quite difficult at times. You know, sometimes they just don't want to eat the meal. They just want to eat snacks. And, you know, you have wonderful rice made, you know, a wonderful dish, and they're just like, no, I want to eat my grapes. And it's like, well, it's not kind of time at the moment. It's time to eat rice, but you try your best, you know.
Yeah. But also it's like grapes versus like chips. That's still a winner.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, yeah. We're so proud. And sometimes we go to the local supermarket and, you know, we have a packet of crisps or chocolate, and straight away we're trying to hide it, and they'll find us. So we give them, okay, you can have a little bit now. But thankfully it's going well. And I know it's the same as some parts of the USA. In Ireland, we also have free school meals. So like we have an option for like a hot school meal. And thankfully the options are really healthy, like mac and cheese or vegetable pasta salads and stuff. And that's really good. And it's good to see that everyone is offered that chance. It's great, you know.
Yeah, that's great. They have lunches here as well, but I think with my kids, they're always like, we want to play. The lines are too long. Or we want to talk to our friends. You know, now they're older. They don't call it play. They we want to hang out with our friends. And so they don't want to stand in line to wait for it. So then I'm like, okay, how do I also try to have nutrition, but then something they want to eat, and, you know, that balance. And so I think it's so amazing that your kids have that now, okay, eating the fruits and vegetables early on, because I think that's something I wish I would have done more of, you know, when they went to school. We always make sure they're bringing water, not like juice and stuff. But then I think we could have been more stricter on like, hey, you have to have at least one serving of fruit or one serving of vegetable.
Yeah, I hear you, but I sympathise because it's been an ongoing battle for us as well, and really it's been very, very difficult. And it's interesting because like my daughter loves eating protein; she'll eat eggs and tuna and chicken, but my son is just really is very, very difficult. And we're having some fried eggs, or just like my daughter is voluntarily eating all of my food, but my son won't even look at it. So fair play to my wife; she's very clever. She'll incorporate, like for example, French toast, where she put a little bit of scrambled eggs so my son can't see it, which is really clever. Whereas my daughter's going to us and goes, no, I just want a fried egg. So she eats the fried egg all by herself. And it's just interesting to see two kids who are raised exactly in the same way. I'm sure you can attest, but have completely different food tastes. And you're just amazed at it, you know?
Yeah. They never pick the same thing, you know? Sometimes, you know, one day a week, we try to take them out for a meal and we say, hey, you guys get to decide. It's never the same thing. So then I started to say, you guys need to figure it out and then tell me. You need to agree. Because like you said, some kids like fruit. I have one kid who really loves vegetables, but he hates fruit. Another kid loves fruit, but he hates vegetables. So it's like, as a parent, how do you balance that?
Oh, yeah. They love the vegetable, but they love variety at times. You know, they're like, oh, it's Friday, so today we get to go out. And you're like, all right, okay. But no, it's wonderful to see. But I will be honest, like the first couple of weeks of school are really tough. Like you would have full lunch boxes and you're sitting there and you're trying to make it more creative. And I think once they see their friends and they see that kind of it's going to happen every day, it makes it easier. But as parents, we dread that first couple of weeks because you just like, you know, it's going to be a battle.
You're so worried.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
they're not getting that nutrition. Did you do anything differently, or was it mostly he got more used to the environment and seeing?
Yeah, so at the beginning it wasn't, and we just kept asking, and we realized that he got really nervous around eating. He would only do it if other people in this class would do it, which is quite strange because we felt like our daughter would just eat whenever. And my son, when he was there, he was like, "Oh, I wanted to play, or I did wanted to do this and that." And I think only when he made like a good friend at school who would eat at the same time, he would do. So I think he would mimic his friend. And we actually, I think my wife, I remember, she just asked the teacher, "Is he doing okay?" He goes, "Oh, he's fine. He's just a very nervous child at the beginning. You can tell he's a little bit worried." And I think he got into that routine, which is fantastic. I think we can all attest the summer holidays are a bit too long for us parents. We're waiting to go back to school. And those first couple of days, but thankfully he got really used to the back lunch and he got used to eating with his friends. And I think what really helped as well was we had to have the lunch boxes. They're very elaborate lunch boxes with one big lunch box and a small lunch box. And he wouldn't eat it unless he gets a special lunch box. And you're like, wow, okay.
But if that's what it takes.
That's what it takes, yeah, indeed.
And that sticks. Let's just stick to that lunchbox.
Indeed, yeah.
I've known of some parents that even went and bought like probably an extra one just in case this one gets damaged, have a backup. Because if that's the one that gets them to eat.
We'll take it, Yeah, I know.
So would you say that was the biggest adjustment, or were there other adjustments?
That was quite a big adjustment. I remember in the first week, my son and my daughter as well, the first couple of days, they were obviously raised during the pandemic and the lockdown. And obviously for us parents, it was quite a difficult time. And they were extremely talkative at home. But once they got to school, they were mute. And the teachers were like, "Oh, they're very nice children. They're doing very well." But they just really seemed very quite shy. And obviously myself and my wife, we didn't know what was going on. But
right. You're like, at home, they're not like that.
Oh, we wish they were at home. You wish they would sit there and be nice and passive. Whereas
no one's quiet at home.
No one's quiet at home. But I think once they got used to making friends and they had playtime, etc., they got really good. That was great. I think another one which we kind of worried about as well was just if they were happy at school. You always worry if kids just don't like their school or they find it tough. And you remember your own childhood, and I went to a wonderful school, but it was quite tough for me. And the first time I had a parents' evening, I just looked at the school and the events they did, and I went, "Wow, you're very proud for your kids, but you wish you had it yourself." You're like, "Wow, this is a wonderful school. Like, look at this playtime, and look at all the colours on the wall." And you're like, "Wow, I would love to learn ABC from this school." And the teacher's looking, and she's thinking the same thing as you, and she's thinking, "Yeah, I know what you're thinking." Every parent says the same. How come I didn't get this when I was at school? But they were really, really happy. The one thing as well, which we're really surprised, is they voluntarily, when they get home, want to do their homework the first minute they get home, which is really quite something. And my son and daughter are like, "Oh, Dad, we got a page of homework. Would you like to do it?" And that's a wonderful thing. And I didn't think it would be as easy as that. And so they do reading every day and they do like a couple of pages of letters and numbers, but they're so passionate about it. And then when you open the pages, there's colouring in exercises, there's a game in exercises, and you're like, "Wow, this homework is fun." And I'm sitting there having a wonderful time doing homework with my son. It's brilliant.
Right. You're like, I would have loved to have this homework too.
Me too, yeah. Oh, you get a teddy bear and he has 2 + 2. And it's makes 4 teddies. Oh, isn't that brilliant? So, But that's one element that's really, really wonderful to see. And I think that's an element of school. And also they just seem so happy and enjoying school and find it comfortable. That just makes you so happy to see,
Yeah, that's fantastic. So it sounds like really in the beginning, it's more for parents, just take it easy, be patient. Eventually kids are resilient, as we know, and eventually they'll fit into the environment and do really well, right? But in the beginning, it is a little bit scary in sort of every aspect. I think for me, it was also like, is he going to fall into the toilet? Because the toilet is bigger, It's like, oh, wait. Because kindergarten, they had small toilets, and then first grade, they didn't. So I was worried. I was like, should we bring a little toilet seat? But no one does that. Then a lot of it we realize is just us. We just need to let time take its course, let them get adjusted.
Yeah, get used to it. And also don't be afraid as well. Like, for any parents listening, if your child doesn't say much the first couple of weeks, we have an app which shows my son doing a wonderful painting and he just didn't tell us. And we're like, "Did you do anything at school?" He went, "Oh, it was okay." And only when he saw the picture, he was like, "Oh yeah, I painted today." And my wife was like, I don't know, she's like, "I'm really glad you told me, but like, you can talk to me." But they're a little bit shy at the beginning, but no, it is wonderful to see. And the first couple of days are always there, but all of us parents are there for our kids and it's there. So I just have to say, it's wonderful to see how much they're enjoying it. They now have 2 weeks off at Christmas and you can already tell they're kind of missing it. They're missing their friends. They're missing the routine. So myself and my wife, we have to come up with, because it's quite dark outside, it's quite cold because it's winter. So we have to, do little exercises. We print off some pages to do some colouring in. which is great, but it doesn't replace school. So I'm really glad that they both enjoy it.
That's awesome. So what are you doing for when they're big? Are you setting like a routine to help them get adjusted, or what is your approach?
Yeah, so they both love coloring in, and I know probably we'll reach a topic because we're both in the tech spaces that it's really difficult in a sense on the tech side. So we do supervise them when they watch TV and it's usually educational, but both of them were quite blessed. They loved to do coloring in. They will print off like a page or two off a printer or a book, and they'll just spend hours just coloring in. My son is now loving the dinosaurs where you count the dinosaur numbers and make it. So that's been great. And also as well, what they love to do is even if it's quite cold is, they like to go outside to the garden or they play with their scooter or they'll just run around and just let them be. And that's great. An element which is a little bit difficult for them is sometimes they just get quite agitated with each other because they're not used to just a STEM for so long. So sometimes the odd argument will break out and you have to break them up or there. But we're trying this time really to just, because they're a bit older, you can chat to them about what would they like to do. Would you like to color in a new picture? Would you like to, play with your toys? Or would you like to, do some homework with dad? So trying to mix it up, and thankfully they're both a bit older, so they're more receptive to it.
That's really great. And I love that, they love still going outside and coloring and that you're fostering that, because before we know it, they'll be exposed to so much electronic, digital things that it's like the longer you can keep them invested, excited about these other things. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So what would you say are the biggest challenges or struggles at their current age?
Slightly different to when we first chat. I think, they're really enjoying school, they have a schedule set, etc. I think it's just to keep having them motivated to keep learning new things and to be comfortable outside their comfort zone, which is really tough for especially my oldest. He likes a set routine, and sometimes if a new thing comes in, he can be a bit agitated or frustrated. It's just to keep encouraging, keep trying new things out. For my daughter, I think it's going to be a little bit difficult for her, as always, when you move from preschool to kindergarten, which is obviously the hours, but, the school will be bigger, there'll be new things there, etc. But I think it'll be easier for her because obviously her brother's going to the school. They'll both be going there, so that'll be there. And I think, as well, it's difficult because I think now we're seeing so many technological devices being given, and you can kind of see like the addiction element already. I know it's quite a deep conversation and one that we kind of worry about, but like I've got friends and family members who at a very young age are given devices. And you see, even before I looked at tech, I just wouldn't, because, it's not really healthy. But I've got, for example, nephews and very young kids with mobile phones and tablets and AR, VR sets. And even as an adult, I worry about these things, never mind, for my own children. So myself and my wife made a conscious decision that obviously we're not going to cut it off. They have the right to talk to someone on the phone or watch the TV. But if they love to do things with their hands or play with Play-Doh or play with colouring, you could just see how much they enjoy it and how much they actually is beneficial for their own learning. That I think it's really, really helpful. And I'm kind of lucky in the sense I work from home and I can divide up the shift with my wife at times. I know if you want to take the kids for a while, which is great. And they love to read. That's wonderful. We can go to local stores for $1 or $2 and buy a wonderful colouring book or a children's story. And they love to read. So they're now at the age where they can put words together. So that's really, really good now.
Yeah, that's amazing. The only thing I noticed when they started reading was they started reading my text messages too and my emails, and I was like, oh, okay. There's some things that are good for reading, some things you may not want to read. You probably should not be reading.
Yeah. Yeah, I did find it quite funny when I was in my room and my son was playing with the chair, and it's one of them swivelly chairs, and I had my Slack open and it was a pretty big channel and he was like button mashing and a couple of emojis came up of laughing emojis. I'm like, yeah, how am I going to get this around to my manager and vice president that, yeah, my son is kind of on a really important security engineering channel, but no, you just laugh at it. But yeah, it's really good. And I suppose it's quite funny when, my children are 6 and 4 and they walk in, they don't know what I do. And my wife says, do you know what your dad does? He goes, yeah, he looks at colours on his screen all day, because obviously we see the colours of the code.
Yeah.
So my kids think I get paid to look at a screen all day and look at colours, which is partially true for us in engineering. I suppose, that's what we kind of tech is a bit, but it warms your heart to see, how happy they are at certain small things, and I have to be honest and say it's wonderful to see how happy they are and, get involved and still come into my Zoom meetings and come in and wave at everyone. Oh, it's wonderful to see. And I think we're lucky in our line of work that we get to spend more time with the families than historically that would be the case,
Yeah, for sure. And then you have that work culture that is okay with kids coming in and stuff like that. In fact, they like it. They love seeing your kids. And that's awesome. awesome. And that's great for your kids to see too. And I think it's always fun every once in a while to get their perspective of what does mommy and daddy do?
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
their answer is always not something we would even think would be an answer, but it's always, it makes sense, right? It's like, well, yeah, of course I'm looking at screens with colors. That does make sense. That may not be what I do all day, but that does make sense.
Yeah, and it's a wonderful thing that they would just see something, so quite simple, but it's quite profound at times, and you kind of see a new perspective on it, which is wonderful.
Yeah. So, what is your approach to limiting their TV time or electronic time? Is it
Yeah.
redirecting them to other things?
Yeah, and I've had a lot of active discussions with my wife about this, and it's interesting because I remember when we moved home and we used to struggle at times because my son would want to watch something and he wouldn't eat, and it was quite difficult at times. And now, thankfully, because we try to encourage him more at the dinner table, they don't require any devices, etc. And what's been wonderful to see as well is that they know what to watch. So on the TV, we try to put educational content on. They'll have their hour fun time. They'll get to watch any cartoon series they like. But we realize it's not healthy for them. And the only thing that's quite difficult at times, our son will wake up Saturday morning and like me and my wife are asleep and he'll go downstairs. And for some reason now he loves watching on the TV now, and it's even on the cartoon channels of people playing a game and then him watching people play a game. And I just can't understand the fascination. And it's just like some really random thing of like Mario running around and someone playing Mario and he loves it. Me and my wife is saying, is this why he doesn't want to play Mario? He wants to watch someone play Mario.
Yeah.
So now he loves Mario and Luigi, and he's like, Dad, can I watch Mario and Luigi when they're around? I'm like, yeah, but are you sure you don't want to play it? He's like, no. I just want to watch them collect the coins. And you're like, wow. That's something. That's something, and that's good. I think the one that's really good for him that he really enjoys at the moment now is we have like this mini kitchen where you can make, and it's kind of quite realistic now. So he loves playing them interactive ones and the dinosaurs with the sound. So he's at the age where he wants the more expensive toys, and not the simple ones. He wants the one with the battery operated ones, and that has its ups and downs, but it's good to see he's happy with them.
For sure. And also you look at kids' toys now and you're just like, like you were saying about the classroom, the same thing. I look at their toys and I'm like, geez, if I had these toys, why would I want to play anything else? But they have so many options that they're always looking for that better one.
Yeah, so many options. It's like, even the Lego now is just so much more advanced to get like these. I just got a big box, but now you get like, make Harry Potter castles or make, Batman. So he loves Batman and Spider-Man. So he's like, oh, Dad, can I have Spider-Man Lego? And I'm like, is that a thing? Lo and behold, I go to the shop. For 4-year-olds to have a Batman Lego, and I'm like, wow, this is amazing. This is brilliant. And I think that's one thing that's been great. And what's really wonderful as well is what's quite sustainable as well nowadays is a lot of the local charity stores will have like you can recycle your old toys and pick up some new toys, which is great. So if a toy he doesn't like it, we can give the toy away and you can exchange it, and it's better for the environment as well. So instead of buying a new toy, you take it from the charity shop. And I would say both of them, they really love the Lego blocks where they can count numbers and they'll like say 2 + 2 is, and what's brilliant is that they have these TV shows where they'll sit there for half an hour and they're enthralled about how 9 + 9 is 2 9s. And you just see how excited they are. And I'm like, wow, these cartoons are very impressive. Like, the educational content, how they apply to education. And that's why I encourage it, because I just see how much he enjoys it. But that's a really nice passive way to learn in such a fun way. It's brilliant.
Yeah, I think there was a time where I was like, is my son watching too much TV? But then the stuff he was absorbing from it was also really like fascinating. Like he learned his multiplication at a young age. And I definitely didn't teach it. But he was just throwing out the multiplication table because he just picked it up from like a show. And now my youngest throwing out like natural disaster facts. He's like, did you know the biggest hurricane is whatever? And I realize it's because he's seeking that information on YouTube and stuff. And then they're recommending more like, natural disaster shows. So he's learning all these facts, sometimes a little scary. I'm just like, what did you just, he's like, don't ever pop your pimple. This is why. And I'm like, whoa, what's going on?
That's impressive. And you learn something new. And and I remember watching one of them and it was just like a bunch of number blocks and they would jump onto each other and they'd be like, oh, I am 3 × 6. And you're like,
I watched that too. I remember.
Number blocks is wonderful, isn't it? And my son loves that show. So we bought a huge box and he's like, 18 is his favorite number. He's like, oh, Dad, 18 can be 2 × 9. And you're like, yeah, it can be, son. He has like favorite numbers. So 18, he loves 18 because 18's fast, and 21 is like a step thing.
Yeah.
And the teacher's like, your son is really obsessed with numbers and it's brilliant, but like, where do you get it from? I'm like, oh, we got this number block thing, and he just loves the show. And he spent like, I think a couple of hours just like coloring all of his friends, and he had different personalities. I'm sure, and you're like, wow, that's 18's a bit rude and 21's like this, and you're like, wow. And 24 is a super duper rectangle. And then he's like, Dad, is there a number like a trillion? And then you try to explain to him, yeah, there is, son, but like we'll get there. But he's like, no, 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 show me, Dad, how many zeros it has. And he's like, this is really good. My son's interested in how many zeros a billion has. So it's wonderful to see. And it's really like, you just sit and admire about how they can just teach mathematics in such a wonderful way, you know?
Is really fascinating. I think that's what makes it even harder sometimes to be like, okay, I don't really want you to spend that much time in front of TV, but then you're learning so much. And so it's that balance.
We try to find the medium, which is, okay, you can watch like one of the shows, but then why don't you build it yourself? And that's like, he's a little bit at times a bit tough for him because he's like, no, I'll rather watch it. But then we're like, okay, I'll make 18 and see who makes it fastest or make it into a game. The only problem is he gets a little bit hyper at times. But what was really good is if we allow him and we keep like boxes there and then we're like, oh, by the way, if you're able to do one, we'll give you more stickers. And thankfully I work at GitHub, and GitHub we give a bunch of stickers. I'm like, okay, if you can do all of this, I'll give you a new Octocat sticker. He's like, oh yeah. So we'll sit there, do all the numbers, and goes, Dad, where's my sticker? So I give him the sticker. And then some bribing him with stickers, I suppose. But what is impressive, I suppose, is he'll use the sticker and understand that actually isn't it more fun to play in person than watching the TV? So you try to happy medium, but it's a battle, though. I'm not going to lie. It's a battle. You know, it's a battle.
Constantly trying to incentivize them to do other things.
Oh, yeah.
I know we talked a lot about like tech and how, you know, we don't want to introduce it too early and trying to balance it. But what would you say are some tech tools or apps that are helpful for kids? Like you mentioned, like number blocks for sure. We've relied on number blocks, leapfrog, you know, those things. But is there anything that you find specific?
Yeah, I think it's interesting, the one about YouTube. For full disclosure, I used to work for Google many, many years ago, and I know how powerful the algorithm is for good and for bad. And there's some wonderful academic literature on this. I think what I tried to do was try to get my son to watch the terrestrial TV channel, which is strange because people are like, well, there's adverts in it, but then he's not addicted to it. He's not waiting for the next recommendation as much. I'm like, oh, there's a number blocks episode, but you have to watch, I don't know, something else that you don't like. And that element of waiting for his favorite show reduces that kind of angst, and I found that, which is interesting. And the second of all as well, which is, it's really, really difficult, but I try my best with my wife to do this, is when it's enough is enough, you say enough is enough. And you know, if you give him 20 minutes, Dad's watching the news now, and you're like, oh no, but the news is boring. But he's like, yeah, but you've had your time. And we come up with this little kind of game where we're like, oh, I think your eyes are a little bit too red, Mustafa. Let's go and take a break. And he doesn't buy it now. He used to, but now he's like, no, my eyes aren't red. But we tried to have the setup time, which is good. And I think the one which I suppose is really difficult, but the one that's working really well, is try to read one small story a day. It could be bedtime. They don't like bedtime. They like it usually in the mid-afternoon, but try to incorporate them reading or following a picture. The schools are doing it now, but on the weekends, just be like, would you like to read a book? And now, thankfully, he picks his own book. So what I try to do is, if we go into a bookstore, I let him, he loves, for example, dinosaurs. My daughter loves unicorns. They pick their favorite book, and then every 2 weeks, I let them buy a new one, or we replace it at the charity shop. And if they get to pick the book, they feel as though they're the boss. So that way we win as parents, because they get to read a book and they enjoy it. So that's one tip I would give to any parents out there. Let the kid pick the children's book and let them have that sense of power. And then you're like, well, fantastic. You love your book. Go and read it. And if you can buy just like one book a month, or even like go to the charity store or the local store and just replace it, or go to the local library, which is fantastic. That's a way in which I would really see how much my son is enjoying, and my daughter as well is enjoying reading, which is a little tip for parents out there.
Yeah, I love that, because it's a win-win. They get to pick something they like, and you get to have them read something, and they're happy about it too. That's a really neat trick. I love that. And also, like, I really like what you said about kind of having them watch something they have to and then watch something they enjoy, because I think kids, that the other added benefit is teaching them patience, right? Because I think nowadays everything is at their fingertips. I feel like patience is really lacking, even for adults, you know, because we're so used to not even having commercials anymore, you know?
Yeah, you can skip through it, and you know, the recommendation that everything is as per you want, which isn't healthy for us as parents and as adults. But like, I think that's one element that's been really, really impressive. The only one kind of thing the only one downside about watching terrestrial TV is the adverts, and the adverts are like these really quite elaborate toys and gifts, which are like really expensive. And you're like, wow, $100 for like some random machine. And then you know what the kids say, I want that, and there's so many of them. At the end, they get bored of saying I want it, so they learn the lesson. But yeah, but I would say that's one aspect that, you know, like a Cartoon Network or Boomerang, that they have to watch what's on the TV and reduce the recommendation, which is there. And I think the last one as well, and I find this really useful, because my son sometimes lack confidence at times, would be to take him to the park and just to play with other children and be comfortable around friends that he's not used to. And we're still working on that, because he can be a little bit shy and reserved. whereas my daughter's more outgoing. We tend to try to at least, every week, I like to take the kids hiking, and that's been a wonderful part for me in my tech job. That sometimes the shared activity I do with my kids is like the 6 and 4, and I'm very proud to say that they hike with me every week for 2 hours a day, and they love hiking. They put
Wow.
their little boots on, they got their onesies on, and we call it going up the mountain. And even they love to see the trees. And for me as a parent, it's wonderful to walk my kids there and take them to a park or hiking. And that's one element that when I see that they're getting very agitated, that physical exercise, but then, making their clothes dirty, not worrying about it because they have overalls on or have boots on so they can jump up and down in muddy puddles like Peppa Pig. And, oh, yeah, Dad, we can jump in muddy. And then, yeah, of course you can. So every week I promise them that I'll take them somewhere. It can be a bit difficult with weather permitting, but most times it's fine. And we have the overalls and onesies on and take the time with the breaks and everything. But, they get to have a sweet afterwards because they've hiked with me for 2-3 hours. And it's a very slow pace, but it's hardened to see two young kids who every week ask me, Dad, let's go hiking, let's go up the mountain. And we try to take the more kid-friendly hikes, but the health is so much better. They love to see the countryside. And, I didn't expect they would enjoy it so much, but they love it. Every week they ask every week to go and see a new trail or a new park. And that's wonderful,
Yeah, that's really, really awesome. And I think that's a really neat tip for parents as well, because getting them into that routine and getting them excited about it, and this could be something that they continue as they get older. And probably as they get older, you'll take them to harder trails, but then even when they become adults themselves, they can take
Yeah.
their kids because they have that beautiful memory that they'll want to recreate with their kids as well. Oh my gosh, I love that so much. That's great.
I used to go hiking myself, and I used to love it. And because of the line of work we're in, it'd be quite tiring, and you can get burned out. And even as a parent, you do need some time to, and that's the one element that helps me a lot of hiking. I remember my kids. It was before actually I spoke to you, and we just started. It was about just about starting, and we've been around like 26 to 27 this year, and it's been for like an hour or two. It's nothing too strenuous, but we got them their special wellies and their overalls, and they just have a wonderful time because they can be as loud as they like. They're on a hiking trail. They can run around and be messy. It's completely fine. And maybe somewhere in the subconscious, they can see that the mom and dad are really enjoying just being out in the open and enjoying it. So that's been great. And I think as well, if they're not feeling it, we're like, that's fine. Let's not do it this week. So I think the element of not making it a compulsion is really kind of helpful. So any parents out there, if there's anything that you love to do that maybe your kids could do, if you introduce it, I thought my kids would get bored of it. They'd be like, oh, no, that's not for me.
Or get tired or can't walk that long.
Get tired. Oh, no, Dad, do we have to? I'd watch TV. But every time I'm like, oh, yeah, let's go on the trail. Like, oh, yeah, Dad. And this time, can we get a drink afterwards or can we go to wherever? And so that's great. And the fact that they can, keep up with me for an hour, hour and a half and enjoy it is wonderful. And in the moment that you realize that it's enough, you take a break and you get a picnic ready or you take lots of pictures and you share the pictures with them. We also give them their own little, like, really cheap toy cameras so they feel as though they're taking a picture of a tree as well, which is really wonderful. So we take the picture home and they'll draw the tree they saw, which is nice. And how much they've enjoyed it has really surprised me. And it's really quite wonderful. And I started them when they were like 3 or 4, and every week they look forward to it. Oh, Dad, let's go for a walk. Let's go to, and if the weather's too bad, we just take them to the local park. But just to see how excited they get. And any tip out there for any parents is if you give them special clothes, they love the special clothes. They feel as though they got magic powers. Oh, Dad, I've got boots so I can jump as high as I can. Like, yeah. That, and you buy into it, and they love it.
Yeah, and then it also takes out the restrictions of normal, like, hey, don't touch that, it's dirty or whatever. It's like, go nuts, right? So it sounds like that's just their time. Do whatever they want.
Yeah, if you get muddy, if you want to touch a tree, go, and it's great. But that's definitely one that surprised me as a parent. And my wife actually encouraged it a lot. She goes, no, give it a try. If they say no, we tried it at least. So that's great. And, the other one which has been really nice as well is, it sounds really funny, but whenever it snows in Ireland, we get the kids to help us to scrape the snow off the car. They feel as though like they are like really, they'll take like a small piece. They feel as though they're helping. And if you try to get them involved, like just carrying something, they feel as though they're the boss. So that's one element of our kids. They like to take control. So we just, let them help out,
Yeah. No matter how little, how small, it's like get them into the habit of doing it. And then as they get older, they will be really helpful as they get older, helping you with that, It sounds like just kind of making it fun, making it a fun activity instead of feeling like a chore. It sounds like that's the main thing.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Yeah, wow, that's really cool. I have all these thoughts in my head. I'm like, oh, this is a great thing to talk about in the beginning of winter break because, you know.
Yeah, it really is. And it was so strange because my uncle came over, and my uncle, he came to visit us a couple of months ago, and he has a large family. He had 7 children, and I took him hiking, and thankfully he's improved, but he had some really pretty poor health issues, and he was really struggling. And I took him up a bit of a trek, and he was a bit reluctant at first. He's like, what are you gonna, he was making a joke, like, you want to, on my time off, you want to take me up a hill? And he was walking up, and he just saw my 2 kids just really enjoying jumping up and down these wooden ledges. And he looked, and he kind of admitted, that's pretty impressive. Like, you got these 2 kids who like just want to go. And it was really, really enjoyable. So I speak to other parents as well, and they really, really enjoy it. And I think if you can like just see what they like and give it a chance and give it a shot, it's definitely really, really, really wonderful. My daughter now, she can't do the lawnmower, but she loves to watch me cutting the grass, and she says, okay, Dad, I want to take it. So you lift her up, and you're like, okay, and you switch it off, and you're like, oh, it's going. You just don't know it's going. And then she's cutting the grass, and you show her the grass you cut before. So I think that's one element as a parent I wasn't thinking was going to work, and somehow it did. So that's just a advice out to the parents. Just give it a try. Your kid might love it even more than you do.
Yeah, it sounds like also just for parents too, just getting out of your comfort zone as
Yeah.
well, right? Because like the hiking, at first you're not sure. Are they going to like it? Is it too much? Is it pushing
Yeah.
them? But then you just went for it. Same with mowing lawn, you just went for it. It's just like, okay, let's just, I'm gonna hold you up and you can try it out. So it's like it sounds like just getting out of your comfort zone as well to push them to try different things.
Oh, definitely. And I think it's really, really like impressive. And I'll just like, I know obviously we're on a trek, but I'll just like kind of show you a picture to you. You can see, so you can see there's my 2 kids there. And I'm just telling the people who are watching that they're wearing like special like onesie dungarees, and they got their wellies, and they're all really beautiful. And you can see how happy they are. They're ecstatic because they're like, oh, we get to see a new bridge, and we get to see a new mud. So that's one element that my wife did, and I wasn't thinking about it, which was give them like really nice like outdoor clothing that they can call their own. And my daughter's like, no, I want purple, and my son wants blue, and they want their own wellies, which like a unicorn and a builder. But that's one element that has been really, really good. And also, I'll be honest, it kind of makes parenting a bit easier because sometimes you just need your own space. And if you're taking the kids, the hike for me is wonderful. I get to relax, I get to recharge, I get to see some beautiful nature, and not always having to worry. Obviously, for parents, we have to worry about the edges, and we have to make sure we're holding the hands, but not to worry about them getting their shoes dirty or telling them off. It's a real, real break.
Yeah, and doing something you enjoy as well and bringing them along
Oh, yeah.
with you for that.
Oh, yeah.
So I think last time we spoke, the last thing I asked you last time was kind of around what tips you have for parents that are ready to have kids and stuff. And you gave a lot of great tips in this episode.
Oh,
But I was curious also in terms of like that advice. Is there anything you would want to add to that now that your kids are a little bit older? Or would you still say the same advice as last time, which was around, making sure you have time for yourself and your partner, which I think is still very, very important. I'm sure you would say that. But is there any additional things that you would add?
Yeah, I think the major one is don't be too hard on yourself. I think parents, we're the hardest critics of ourselves. If we do something wrong, we'll really put it on ourselves and kind of like beat ourselves up. And I think, I'll defend yourself. Obviously, I know your kid's a bit older than mine. I think one element that parents can get into a bit of a trap at times is if a kid doesn't enjoy it, it's not your mistake. It's not your fault. We try, and it's a lot of trial and failure, not only of like school meals or activities or technological devices. We're all trying as parents, and we all try our best. And I think one element that I wish I brought to myself before was not to be too hard on myself. If I made a mistake, as parents, we try our best. But that's one thing that I would love to add to the last piece of advice, which was in the podcast, which is there's going to be times you make errors, but just embrace it. And rather than beat yourself up about it, just say, no, I'll try something different. I think that's one. And the second of all is, and I know this, I'm sure all parents say the same, is that the one thing that I love is physical pictures. I know we have some wonderful, in tech, we have these abilities to put in the cloud, but just the picture you have, I'll give you an example. I'll show it to yourself, but like I have a picture of my son who drew a famous character of his on one of his cartoon shows called Bowser, or a picture of your son when he's like 1 year old or 2 years old as a physical picture. And that's one thing that I didn't know how nice it was, but to see that every day when you're going up the stairs or going into a bedroom is really, really beautiful. So like that's the two things that I would add to the previous episode, which is number one, obviously, don't be too hard on yourself when you make an error, but also as well, just have dotted around a picture of your kid at a different age, and they themselves will go to that picture and says, oh, look, Dad, that was me when I was a baby. And that's one of which I have to credit my wife to, because she actually physically develops the pictures and wants to see them around the house. That's number one as well, which is really nice as well. That might be of use to people.
Yeah, I love that because I think also, like we talked about in the beginning, they grow up so fast, they change so quickly. So it's like,
Yeah.
do you develop that picture today? In a month, they're going to look different. And so that will be an amazing memory to have a snapshot of that moment. And also not being so hard on yourself. You're absolutely right. A lot of times, even when we don't make a mistake, we're still hard on ourselves, right? Like your son starting school, he wasn't really eating. That was nobody's fault, but we still blame ourselves for it. Like, oh, what could we have done better? But then you realize, like, no, he just needs to get adjusted to it, and then he'll be just fine. It's not anyone's fault that happened, right? But a lot of times we default to ourselves. I think that's the
Oh
biggest thing we
yeah.
do as parents. We default to ourselves and blame ourselves for everything.
Yeah, no, you said it so well, and I think it's even though you hear other parents say you still blame yourself. You no, I could have done something different, but that's only with the advantage of experience. I'm sure you can attest. How hard were you on a thing which really wasn't in your control, or you come back and you're thinking, wait a minute, why was I so hard on
It
myself for
wasn't that
something
big a
that
deal.
I couldn't change? It wasn't that big of a deal, but for yourself, I'm sure you know it. You will be thinking, oh, you're really kicking yourself, and you're like, why did I kick? But then I think that's the trap sometimes as parents fall into, that we'll think that we really did something big when in the whole grand scheme of things we should be kinder to ourselves, you know.
For sure. Well, thank you so much, Abdul, for taking the time to talk to us again and sharing all these awesome tips. And, I was planning to publish this in January, but now we talked a lot about, things that could also help during winter break. So I think I'm going to move this sooner and publish this sooner,
Oh,
halfway through winter break, because I think it would be so helpful for parents to hear sooner than later. So thank you so much.
that's very kind of you, and I'm sure you might have heard from others, but I just want to say thank you for yourself for running not only a wonderful show, but being such an absolutely wonderful person, and what you've done to open up a space for fellow parents, and just much respect and kudos to yourself and your family and what for everything you do. So thank you so much for inviting me, but also thank you for having this opportunity to talk to other parents. So thank you so much yourself as well.
Of course. Thank you for those kind words. I really appreciate it. And also just, once again, I just want to say thank you so much for your support. And it's been just really, really awesome talking to you and hearing everything. And I wish you the best in the new year and happy holidays.
You too. Happy holidays to you and your family. And I just have to be honest to all the listeners, it was an absolutely wonderful experience, and it was a very, very happy email to see from yourself. And just want to say I've listened to several of the episodes, and the diversity of backgrounds and the challenges people face on such a platform. You've done an absolutely wonderful job. So much respect to yourself.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Take care.
You too.
Thank you so much for joining us today on Parenthood Bites. We hope you found our episode informative and entertaining. If you're a parent in the tech world or know someone who is, we'd love to hear from you. Please reach out to us at chow@parenthoodbites.co, and we'll be thrilled to add your experiences to our interviews. That's chow, CHIAO, @parenthoodbites.co. And to our potential sponsors out there, if you're a business or know of one that would like to support and partner with our podcast, please don't hesitate to get in touch. You can also reach us at chow@parenthoodbites.co. Thank you once again for tuning in, and we wish you a fantastic rest of your week. Until next time, take care and stay curious.